Hey guys, just wanted to grab you all for a quick second before this video starts. I want to say that starting tomorrow, July the 23rd, I am going to be going camping with my family for the next 5 days or so, up until Wednesday the 27th, and therefore I will not be able to upload any videos during that duration. I will hope to get a video out on the 28th. We'll see how that goes. It'll probably be another Hero Spotlight. Not sure who I'm going to do yet, but I'm hoping I can get a video out. So yeah, just wanted to grab you for a quick second to share that, to share with you why I won't be uploading any videos for the next little while. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. My name is Elivaras, a senior player moderator for League of Angels Fire Raiders. Welcome to Building Your Team, Part 5, where we take a look at specific male team compositions. So it has been quite a while since our last Building Your Team episode, and therefore we're going to go over a little bit of review of what every good team needs. First thing, DPS. This is obvious, you need damage to win fights. Second thing, control. While control is not absolutely necessary, you really want control to lock down those high priority targets who you can't have using their skills that could destroy your team, such as Draconia, Bamboo Fighter, Dragon Queen, Shadow Stalker, heroes like that. You want a good front line. You need someone to soak up damage coming from enemy DPS. If all you have is DPS heroes on your team, you're going to get destroyed because your front line's going to be dead in a matter of seconds, and then the enemy's going to get rage from killing your front line, and then they're going to kill your back line. Next is optional sustain. You typically don't want to have a sustain hero just because they taking a whole team slot for a sustained hero means you lose out on a lot of potential DPS. If one of your DPS gets locked down, you only have one more to do damage rather than two more, so usually you don't want an only sustained hero. You usually want your sustain to come from other skills of heroes who are bringing you DPS, maybe an off-tank. Usually it's a DPS hero you want to get your sustain from, so this could be heal, shields, cleansing. For example, in females, cleansing came from Alicia as a DPS hero rather than a hero directly built just to support your team. So first, I'm going to read off the front line and the back line champions. So front line free to play include Rose Knight, Elder Dwarf, Nether Knight, Headless Horseman, Light Envoy. I will go into Light Envoy later. Front line for pay to play include all of those above and these stated next: Dark Paladin, Hellhound, potentially Minotaur, potentially Bamboo Fighter, potentially, and then there's Zweihander, who I forgot to mention for free to play. So yeah, you can use Zweihander too. Although I'll go into who I actually think you should be using. So, just a second here. I'm just looking over my notes. Okay, I thought I missed something later on in the notes. So, backline, starting with free to play. Under the mage category, we have Byron and Exorcist. Byron being Byron the Black. For the archer category, we have Astral Hunter, Knight Sentinel, and Bombmaster. For the warrior category, we have King of Bones and Berserker Claw. Pay to play. Mage includes Jack Hallow. Archer includes Shadow Stalker, and Warrior includes Minotaur, Bamboo Fighter, Hellhound, and Exo 403. So now, let's get into team compositions. For free-to-play, typically, you want Elder Dwarf or Rose Knight in the very middle, unless you have a high-leveled Light Envoy. Light Envoy you can adequately get as a free-to-play, and I mean, this is a male team, so you may be asking, Elivaras, this is a male team. Why would I want Light Envoy? She's obviously female. Well, yes, but Light Envoy is the hands-down best tank in the game you can get. She flies high above every other tank you can possibly have, with insane damage reduction and insane team support. So usually you want to, I would suggest, even if you're running a male team, unlocking her from the Celestial Merchant, getting her leveled, geared, ruined, etc., getting her up so that she can act on your main team, because she is an insane tank. I would use her front middle, and then Dark Paladin, if you can get your hands on him. Dark Paladin is also quite a good tank. He really helps against very high damage single target heroes such as Draconia, Shadow Stalker, Night Sentinel, Bamboo Fighter, etc. Because first of all, when he's awakened, he gets at first level a 69% damage reduction on the first turn, which will be hugely beneficial against, say, Draconia's first turn burst, or Night Sentinel's potential first turn burst, or Bamboo Fighters. And he has a revive, meaning if he gets nuked instantly, he'll be able to come back the next turn, making him very useful. So only if you could get your hands on him, I would use Dark Paladin, if you can get him geared leveled up to around the same BR as your other heroes. If you don't have the above heroes I've mentioned, you can use Nether Knight or Zweihander. I would not really recommend them, just because Nether Knight falls off late game, and because he really relies on his shield. Zweihander is basically just a brick wall, and that kind of goes for Rose Knight, so I'm not a huge fan of Rose Knight either. So if you're free to play, Elder Dwarf middle, Light Envoy middle, Dark Paladin middle, and then for an off tank, typically the staple pick for an off tank would be Headless Horseman, typically because you don't want two main tanks who don't offer much for your team. You don't want two main tanks because the main tank is supposed to be soaking up 2 lines of damage, and the off tank is supposed to be soaking up 1. So you don't need a main tank who can soak up 2 lines of damage twice, because there's only 3 lines. So you only need one main tank and then an off tank who brings something else for your team just besides tankiness. So usually a staple pick for this is something like Headless Horseman, who brings CC through his silence, and he brings a lot of damage. So especially if you're free to play, I'd go Headless Horseman in the off tank. So above or below either Elder Dwarf, Light Envoy, Dark Paladin, Rose Knight. So now, let's hop into Backline. So what I'm going to do for the Backline section is I'm going to go through each hero one by one and say, okay, so you want this hero in the Backline. What do you need with that hero? So we're going to start with Byron. So let's say you have a really high level Byron, or for whatever reason you really love Byron and you want him in your Backline. Okay, so what do you need to go along with Byron? Well, first of all, Byron has a line targeting ultimate with really good damage. And because of this really good damage, he can usually nuke out an enemy backliner as soon as he uses his ultimate. This gives you some leeway with the other 2 backline choices, because he doesn't need heroes to follow up on his damage typically, therefore they can be whatever you want. They can... typically you want the other backline choices to complement each other. You don't want, like, just one AoE hero and then one frontline targeting hero, because if the AoE hero hits the backline and there's no one to follow up on his damage, then the backline will get rage, they'll ult and kill your team. So if you're going to bring an AoE hero on your team, you typically want to bring 2 AoE heroes on your team. You could also bring, and I mean those AoE heroes could be, for males would be like Astral Hunter, Bombmaster, assuming you're free to play of course, because this is the free to play section. Astral Hunter, Bombmaster. And if you don't want to run AoE, you could use other single-target, high DPS heroes that can basically kill enemies in one hit, such as Night Sentinel. So, let's go into Night Sentinel in the backline. Similar to Byron, Night Sentinel has high DPS and is able to kill a target on his own. This means in the backline, you don't need to worry about heroes that back up Night Sentinel. You have some leeway, so refer to what I just said regarding Byron. So let's say you want Astral Hunter or Bombmaster in the backline because they're both full AoE heroes. They usually do not have enough damage to kill heroes in one hit, even backline heroes. They just don't have enough to kill backline heroes in one hit. Therefore, they need other heroes that can target the backline. So if you're running Astral Hunter, you might want to put Bombmaster in your team. If you're running Bombmaster, you might want to put Astral Hunter, right? Maybe Byron the Black, because his second skill is a lightning strike on all enemies. It doesn't do insane damage, but maybe that could follow up if he's got a lot of damage. But you usually want someone who can follow up on damage so that you don't just feed rage to the enemy team and then get destroyed. Now, because it'll be like Astral Hunter first, and then you're like, okay, I need a hero to back up Astral Hunter, and you put in Bombmaster. Your third choice does not need to be another hero that complements them, because typically 2 heroes that do the same thing is good enough to kill a backline target. So therefore, you have leeway on your last pick, and this could be like Knight Sentinel for some high single target DPS to muck up some tanks, maybe a Berserker Claw to get some CC on the backline, stun a priority target, who knows. So Berserker Claw on the backline. Let's say you want him. The problem with Berserker Claw is that he doesn't do much damage, period. His main source of damage, believe it or not, is his boomerang, which is the backline stun, because his first skill, which is usually hitting a tank, hardly does any damage at all, especially because he doesn't have the best hit chance and usually misses a lot of his shots. Berserker Claw is usually only brought for the utility of his backline stun. So therefore, you need, because you're not gaining much damage from Berserker Claw, you need either 2 AoE heroes that can back up each other as DPS, or single/line targeting nukers such as Knight Sentinel and Byron, who can kill targets single-handedly. Next, let's take a look at King of Bones. So the main goal when you're using King of Bones is you want him to get on the backline, because if he can ult on the backline is screwed. They're basically all dead. The issue is that it takes him a while to get through the front line. Therefore, frontline nukers can really help him. So if you have like a Knight Sentinel on your team, Knight Sentinel can nuke out a frontliner on the first turn, and then ult nuke, and then he can use his double shot range, and then ult the second frontliner, and then King of Bones can hopefully get onto the backline. King of Bones does a significant amount of damage over time through his Blaze, although his Blaze is on a random chance, so you may not get it triggering. So because of this Blaze, you can let him attempt to chip away at a priority frontline target and get to the backline. Sorry, I messed up with my notes there. So if you want, you can let him attempt to chip away at a priority frontline target, let's say like a Headless Horseman, or let's say they put like a Bamboo Fire in the front line. You can try and chip away at him, and while you pick 2 other backline targeters, such as like Astral Hunter, Bombmaster, or say you pick like nukers like Knight Sentinel and Byron. Although this is not recommended, since he'll probably just feed rage, talking about King of Bones again. And if that frontline target is a Bamboo Fighter or something similar, you'll get destroyed, because Bamboo Fighter will get hit once and then absolutely destroy King of Bones in the backline. So let's say you want Exorcist in the backline. One thing to know about Exorcist is that he is strictly support and will do basically no damage. Because of this, your 2 other choices need to have damage, like lots of damage. You're going to want either frontline nukers, which could be Knight Sentinel and Byron, or 2 backline targeters that can complement each other, like Astral Hunter and Bombmaster, that can complement each other for DPS. So overall, when you're free to play, you want to try and get some CC. Whether this is through your tanks that you choose, whether this is through your DPS, you want to make sure you have at least some CC. If you don't have any CC, you have to have massive damage, or else your team could get screwed up. Because if you don't have CC, their backline targeters are going to stay alive for a long time and destroy your backline. You want either high damage to kill their backline, or CC to lock up their backline so they can't kill you. Obviously, Astral Hunter, Bombmaster, and Byron are not like the most amazing DPS heroes. So if you have better play-to-play heroes who are on par with the BR of your other heroes, definitely use them, because obviously Astral Hunter, Bombmaster, and Byron are not the heroes you want in the late game to be your DPS. They're just good examples as a free-to-play, for free-to-play players to help me prove my point. Next, let's take a look at pay-to-play heroes. So, usually you either want Light Envoy, Elder Dwarf, Dark Paladin in the front middle, maybe Hellhound, maybe Minotaur. If you like suit him up with Warden Crest, you can get him in the front line. That might work with Minotaur, but Hellhound usually you want to have damage on him, so therefore Warden Crest might not be the best choice. So usually Headless Horseman's still a good pick for pay-to-play. And you can also use Bamboo Fighter if you're on the offense, if you can choose where to put him. because if you can plan around where the enemy is, then you're fine with Bamboo Fighter, but if the enemy can plan around Bamboo Fighter being like top front, then they can destroy Bamboo Fighter, and you have no control over that. So yeah. Usually I would recommend Light Envoy as your frontline pick, but Dark Paladin's also very good as well, especially against heroes like Draconia. So now we're going to use the same format as we did for free-to-play. Let's say you want Jack Hallow in the backline. I'd like to say that I don't have much experience with Jack Hallow, so my info might not be on par with the rest of my information. He is AoE damage. He is a AoE damage hero with some silence, which is CC, utility. You won't need to worry a whole lot about having CC on the other heroes you add. You'll still need to worry a little bit, like you still want to bring more CC, but you don't need to worry as much because he brings CC for you. This allows you to potentially pick as backliners just straight DPS. This could be like Shadow Stalker, this could be Night Sentinel, this could be Byron, this could be Bamboo Fighter. You don't need to worry too much about heroes that solely have CC to pick up your team. I'm not sure how strong his damage is. I don't see a lot of people using him, but you may need other backline targeting heroes since he is AoE to follow up on his damage. This could be Bombmaster, this could be Astral Hunter, Shadow Stalker, Bamboo Fighter, Hellhound, Exo 403, heroes of the like. So let's say you want Shadow Stalker in the backline. Shadow Stalker is huge DPS, will destroy heroes in one hit if geared, leveled, etc. This leaves you options in the back line. You can have 2 AoE heroes that complement each other to follow up on each other's damage. You could just bring more... Apologies. You could just bring more hard DPS, such as Night Sentinel, Bamboo Fighter. And maybe you can bring some support? Because he has such amazing DPS, you might be able to bring some support, such as Exorcist, who can clear up any crowd control who is on your team, or damage over time to help your team stay alive, just because of Shadow Stalker's insane damage. He's basically worth 2 DPS heroes in one. So, I mean, your options are basically open when you choose Shadow Stalker. You just may need to worry a little bit about crowd control. Oh man, I'll be honest. You may need to worry a little bit about crowd control because Shadow Stalker has no crowd control. But if you don't want to worry about crowd control, you could just run full DPS and then just destroy their heroes instead of bothering to lock them up. So let's say you want Minotaur in the backline. Minotaur brings a little of everything: stuns, CC prevention, heals, and damage. However, as a backline pick, he is nowhere near enough damage to win a fight. His damage is extremely lackluster. Therefore, you need 2 other high DPS heroes, whether these are single or multi-target. If it's a decent damage multi-target, obviously you need another decent damage multi-target to follow up on his damage. If it's a high damage multi-target hero, you may not need another. This could be Jack Hallow, depending on how he's like crested and ruined. His stuns allow for a little more lenience in hero choice, since you don't need to worry as much about CC, since his ultimate brings CC for you, so there you go. Overall, I'm not a huge fan of Minotaur, just because I find he's a complete hybrid, does a little of everything, but not enough in one thing to make him super useful. Bamboo Fighter backline. Bamboo Fighter brings insane DPS if he is leveled, geared, etc. He basically insta-kills almost a full line. Definitely the backline target, maybe not the frontline target if he's like a really good tank, such as Light Envoy or Dark Paladin. Because he basically insta-kills a full line, this gives you a lot of lenience in your backline choices, since you don't need to worry about following up on lackluster damage. So you can refer to my section on Shadow Stalker, where I'll just briefly go over it for a second. Basically, you can either choose 2 other heroes to complement each other. Because he does such insane damage, you have the possibility of running a support. And he also brings really good CC. He's got CC on his first skill, which can stun. He's got CC on his backline stomp skill. So you don't need to, that gives you even more leeway than Shadow Stalker, because he brings CC along with his insane damage. And as I was saying, and I kind of skipped my point there, but When I was saying refer to the section on Shadow Stalker about giving you lots of options for damage, I did say support, but I meant to say, like, yeah, you could use 2 heroes that complement each other, AoE heroes that complement each other, or you could just bring other single-target or multi-target nukers. So let's say you want Hellhound in the backline. Hellhound doesn't bring insane DPS, and he's kind of like an AoE because he hits multiple targets. So therefore, usually because he doesn't do enough damage, you're going to want other heroes to follow up on his damage. So this could be just straight AoE heroes like Astral Hunter, Bombmaster, Jack Hallow. This could be just line targeters who can follow up on his damage. Maybe if it's a kind of tanky backliner, you can put up like Bamboo Fighter to finish him off. You can put on Byron. You know, heroes like that who can follow up on his lackluster damage. He provides team support through his backline shield, which reduces damage dealt to your backline, although he does suffer from a lack of hit chance. So, if I don't know about male heroes, but if there are any good male heroes that passively boost hit rate, it would benefit Hellhound quite a bit. So, because he doesn't bring insane DPS, you want other heroes to follow up on his DPS, or you want just straight DPS heroes to make up for his lack of DPS. So let's say you want Exo403 in the backline. Exo403 is a support and DPS hero through his decent damage and amazing heals. His damage is AoE, meaning that you're going to need, again, other AoE heroes to follow up on his damage, since his damage is not enough to kill an enemy backline target in one hit. He provides a little bit of CC through like one ability. He has like a 1 target CC, so it's not amazing. You may want other heroes to bring up that CC count. This could be a good example. Could be Jack Hallow, because he brings more CC for the team, and he brings AoE damage to follow up on Exo's damage. Bamboo Fighter, Minotaur, you know, other heroes that bring CC who can also bring damage to follow up on his. And because of his amazing heals, you don't need to worry about any kind of supports. You can skip like healing angels and stuff, because he brings enough heals on his own for the whole team. Like, his heals are insane. So overall, if you have an OP female hero like Dragon Queen, like Draconia, you don't need to refrain from using it just because you're running a male team. If you have an OP hero, use the OP hero. I don't care what type it is, especially if you're pay to play. Your emblems are probably pretty close anyway, so you don't need to worry as much about running a full female or male team than a free-to-play does. Try and make sure your team has CC. If not, you must have tons of damage, which if you're high pay-to-play is not that much of a barrier, since you can get heroes like Shadow Stalker, you can get heroes like Draconia, so you can make up for that lack of CC and high damage. But if you're low free-to-play, free-to-play or low pay-to-play, you might want to get a little bit of CC on your team to help lock up priority targets. So now, at the very end of this video, I would like to help you decide on which backliners to use, because obviously what I just did was I gave you a long list of backliners. I said this backliner, and then if you want him on your team, you have to know this about the hero and these potential heroes that work well with that hero. So the only thing about that is you're like, okay, so now I've got this list of heroes and heroes that work well with those heroes, but which one should I actually use? Does that mean I should use an Astral Hunter, Bombmaster, Byron backline? Well, no, not necessarily. So therefore, I'm going to give you a tier list of backliners to help you decide. Now, obviously, these are my opinions, so take them with a grain of salt. This is what I think, and you are within your rights to disagree with me. First, I'm going to split it into 4 categories: must use, great, good, and meh. Meh being the worst, and must use being the best. I'm going to put this list in the description. Must use heroes if you have them. Shadow Stalker, obviously insane damage. Bamboo Fighter, obviously, again, insane damage, CC. Jack Hallow, yeah, I don't know. Jack Hallow is, I mean, I don't have much experience with him. I don't see a whole lot of people using him, so I'm not exactly sure how good he is. He could be in the must-use, but if he's not, then he's in the second category, the great category, Other heroes in this category include Exo403, Knight Sentinel, and Hellhound. If you are free to play, Knight Sentinel is your #1 choice. Knight Sentinel all the way. Insane damage. And he's like your staple pick for a free-to-play player, and possibly a pay-to-play player as well. And also, Hellhound is also in the great category. In the good category, Astral Hunter, Bombmaster, Minotaur, Exorcist, Byron. So Astral Hunter and Bombmaster in this category because typically full AoE heroes are not super useful because unless you can get both of them to ult at the same time, the problem you have is that one of them will ult first, and that will do quite a bit of damage to the enemy backline. Not enough to kill them, of course, but that means that they will gain a lot of rage and possibly ult and then destroy you, your whole team. So, therefore, if you're going to use those two, you might want to consider using a light envoy in the front line so that when she ultimates and fills up rage for your team, she can fill up multiple heroes' rage bars, both Astral Hunter and Bombmaster, so they can both ult at the same time, and you don't have to worry about one ulting and then the enemy destroying you. Minotaur, not a huge fan of Minotaur just because he's a straight hybrid and doesn't excel in any one field. Exorcist, I've already told you my thing on supports. I'm not a huge fan of supports just because, like, don't get me wrong, Exorcist is an amazing support, but with the state that meta's in, using a full hero slot that adds no extra damage for your team is very damaging to your team if the enemy has 3 high DPS heroes, because you're losing out on a ton of potential DPS. Byron, I'm not a huge fan of Byron. He usually feeds rage through his second skill, which is the AoE lightning. It doesn't usually do that much damage, and as I said, it feeds rage. And then his ultimate's really the only thing that does good damage, but he obviously, I don't think he has an insane hit rate, so he might suffer from missing. And there's better line targeters you can use, like obviously Bamboo Fighter. Even if you're male, you could use like Nightblade, which is way better line targeter than Byron's. And meh heroes, King of Bones, he just doesn't bring enough damage. If he ults on the front line, it's useless because he basically does no damage to the front line. His Blaze is on a chance, it's really the only good thing he has, and it's usually going to be cast on a frontline tank, which is not as useful. And Berserker Claw because he does basically no damage and he's only there for CC utility. He's really good in the early game, don't get me wrong, he'll muck people up in the early game, but all of this is based around the late game. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it wasn't too long or too boring for you. I apologize if I got some of the points, if I messed up a few points, if I said something that wasn't necessarily correct. Obviously, I'm not perfect. I do try my best, though. I spent quite a while getting ready for this video, filming, and now to edit, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day. See you guys.